Welcome back. I today am at the wonderful 14th century Church of All Saints at Purleigh in Essex, just outside Maldon and not too far from Chelmsford. And you've seen from the title of the video the reason why I'm here. I'll just show you around the outside of this wonderful little churchyard. It's quite small, so it's not going to take too long to go around and then in to show you some of the information about George Washington. Now, like I said, it's a 14th century church. It's not the greatest of days today, but yeah, it's lovely and peaceful, as all these places are. So we'll just have a look around the churchyard and then we'll go into the church. And then there's some interesting things to show you on the in the cemetery over the other side of the road. So some lovely churches in this area. I've shown you the redundant Church of St Mary in Maldon. This one, obviously, which does have, like I say, the claim to fame of being heavily linked to George Washington, the first president of the United States. He's not buried here, I think he is buried here, but I don't know where. Doesn't seem to be marked. The story is that George Washington's great-great-grandfather, Lawrence Washington, was the actual rector of this place in the 1600s, and this sort of particular church and parish area was considered one of the more Gucci ones to have. But Lawrence Washington was a royalist and supported King Charles I during the English Civil War, and that was not liked one little bit. So he was chucked out of this parish. He stopped being the rector here and eventually died in 16... I've got it written down. I have made some notes. Hang on. When did you die, Lawrence Washington? 1650 something or other. 1655 is when he died, and of course it's quite sort of strange. I'd seen a YouTube video of this church before, so I knew of the link, but the reason we first visited this church was not because of that actually, but it was because my wife's great-grandparents are buried in the graveyard opposite, and we came to actually visit their grave. So this is a beautiful church. It is open, and I've just had a chat inside with lovely lady called Jill, who described herself as the church organist, and she gave us a few pointers, things to go around and look at and see. Now over here, I think it's over here, was this the one? Remember the Abney Park Cemetery tour, and I showed you the grave of PC William Tyler from the Met, who was murdered on duty in 1909 in the Tottenham outrage. Well, here we have the grave of Adam John Eves from Essex Constabulary, murdered whilst in the execution of his duty, 15th of April 1893, aged 36. This tablet is erected by the whole of his brother officers of all ranks as a mark of esteem and regard for his bravery. So they did manage to track down the perpetrators, and an individual was convicted of murder and hung. And I'll pop a link to some more information about Sergeant Adams in the description. But there's some wonderful sort of old graves around here. Jill was telling me this church actually, it's literally built directly onto the earth. It hasn't got much in the way of foundations at all, and they struggle with damp coming up. Through the ground. Now, one of the things when you sort of research this place and the link to George Washington is you will find reference to a thing called the Washington window, which was donated by the people of Maldon in Massachusetts in 1928, so nearly 100 years ago. So this is All Saints Church, Purleigh, where I thought that window was. It's not, it's actually in All Saints Church, Maldon. So we'll pop along there at some point and go and have a look. But yeah, so the rector, Lawrence Washington, was the great-great-grandfather of George Washington, the very first president of the United States of America. And when we go inside the church to have a look around, which I'm gonna do just now, I'll show you some information they've got displayed in there. They've told me it's quite okay to film, and besides the Washington information, it's genuinely, there's some genuine interesting stuff inside as well. So I'll just pop in and have a look. Now, one tip I got from watching other people's videos when visiting these old churches is to look around the door frames, because you will quite often see scratches and old graffiti and stuff. I can't seem to see any around here. Oh, there's some just about there. Can you see? Who knows how long that's been there. But yeah, gonna pop inside. So this is the interior of All Saints Purleigh. And if you turn to the left, if you visit here, oh, just come over to this small corner here, you'll find some information. There is a portrait of George Washington. There's a link to Winston Churchill as well. I think that's a family tree, possibly. This is Lawrence Washington, and as it says there, Vicar of Purleigh married Phyllis Maldon or Twigden. Their son John Washington was the pioneer who settled in Virginia and became the great-grandfather of George Washington. And that is Phyllis. Strange, I've never heard that one before. And just on the wall here, we've got like this, what do you call it, like a roll of honour of the rectors and patrons of Purleigh, all through the ages from 1220. And if we come down to the 1600s, to 1633, we come to Lawrence Washington. And under the Commonwealth, the constitution of the church was suspended. Washington was ejected from his benefice in 1643, and the 6 ministers following were intruded by parliamentary commissioners. No bishop functioned during this period. So that's really interesting. So yeah, his son settled in Virginia and became great-grandfather to the very first President of the United States of America, George Washington. But the actual church itself is really beautiful. There are some people milling about. Like I said, I have got permission to do some filming. And if you find yourself out this way, there are all these information pamphlets just, excuse me, for a small donation. I take one. I've got one here, which is made for some interesting reading. But again, going back to what I was saying about looking around the columns in these places and door frames and arches, you'll find various etchings from down the years. Probably people bored out of their skulls in church. I don't know. If you know the reason why people would have done that, then please let me know. So, see if we can find some more examples. None that side. Yes, wrong bloody church for the window base. See what we can see, if there's anything more. A bit dark. Can't really see too well over this side. Can't really see. There's not actually that much, only that column over there. What about this one here? Right at the back.
Are you going down to All Saints in Maldon?
Some wonderful oil paintings. Bye, Jill.
Left your wife sitting in the churchyard, have you?
She's happy over there. She's happy.
That's all right.
See you later. Take care. Just for everyone on the video, that was Jill. Jill is lovely. Give us a wave, Jill. Give us a wave. So yeah, I've just been approached by Julie, the actual pastor in charge of the church, who's confirmed that Lawrence Washington is actually buried in Maldon, not here. So that's another place to visit. But the first time we came here, sort of kind of love these old vaults inset into the floor. You know, these are from 1780 something, and 1624. The body of Elizabeth Burton, wife to John Burton of London, gentleman who had issue by him 3 sons and 4 daughters, and she departed this life the 16th of July 1624. So, smothered in history, this place. (1817). According to the very lovely Jill, I did ask what secrets were in this very old chest, and it's just the odds and sods box. Always look around and always look up when you're in these places. Look at that for a name, Barrington Horsemandan, Esquire. So his vault was made in the year 1756. Oh, can you see that? Yep. Another couple of I don't want to disturb those flowers. I'll knock them flying with my bingo wings. if I try and squeeze past them. So 1599, 15th of July. It's written in Latin. I might get Gemini to translate that for us later. Yeah. Okay. I think I've shown you. But if you've got any of these little places nearby you, they're always worth a visit if you want to kill a couple of hours just wandering around and sort of like looking at the history. But yeah. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take you across the road to the cemetery on the other side of the road and just show you something else of interest. Oh, hang on, let's go this way again. Didn't show you that wonderful painting. Okay. That's the corner where you have the information on Lawrence Washington. So, beware of the step. Guess what I didn't do last time? I didn't beware of the step. Stacked it. Oh yeah, sort of on the side here. I didn't see these first times, but it's talking about the graffiti on the door frames and etchings. Just have a look. Yeah. That's pretty. Nice floral arrangement. Now, one thing I have taken heed of is I'm still learning this sort of walking-y, talking-y vlog thing, is try and keep the camera as steady as possible. I noticed in the St Mary's Bay Dymchurch video I did the other week, I kept going like that all the time, and my wife, when she watched it, was like, you know, keep it bloody still, it makes me sick. So apart from just then, I hope I've shown a bit more improvement, or at least if I'm going to pan round, do it steadily and not quickly. Right. So, do your proper research, Baz, and you'd have gone to the right church. Well, I am at the right church. You know, this is the church where Lawrence Washington was rector. But obviously I'm at the wrong church for the window and his body. So don't. Anyway, it gives me another church to visit, doesn't it? Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to head over to the graveyard on the other side of the road and just show you something there. And if you like your UK true crime and serial killers, you might find this interesting. Well, you might not as well, but yeah, let's go and have a look. So, wow, yeah, in the graveyard opposite All Saints Purleigh, and just been speaking with Charlie Potter, the groundsman for the church, and this wonderful bloke, so informative and helpful. And he's going to take me to see his dad, who is a local historian and has written a book all about the church, and it's kindly arranged for me to go and get a copy. So that's what I'm going to do. But you see how well laid out and tended this graveyard is. That's Charlie's work. But here is what I want to show you. This is the grave of Francis Camps. You can't really make it out. He's an eminent forensic pathologist. way back in the day. Died in 1972, and he was involved in a number of high-profile cases. The one which you'll probably know the most is 10 Rillington Place, the John Christie murders, and the wrongful conviction of Timothy Evans, who was convicted of murdering his wife Beryl and daughter Geraldine, when in fact it was Christie who had done it. And on being convicted in 1950, he was subsequently executed and buried in the grounds at Pentonville Prison. However, when Christie was originally later arrested for, I think it was 8 murders in total, he was, well, at least 8 murders, he confessed to murdering Beryl. Bearing in mind by this time Timothy Evans had already been hung. And a later inquiry, after Timothy Evans was given a posthumous pardon, concluded that he likely killed Geraldine as well. So yeah, it's one of British history's most high-profile miscarriages of justice. But he was also involved in the case of John Bodkin Adams, who was a doctor who was suspected of murdering a lot of people, and out of about 300 death certificates issued by Adams, Camps identified about 160 that were iffy and required further investigation. He was actually charged with murder, one murder, but he was acquitted, so he was not actually a convicted murderer. But yeah, this is the grave of Francis Camps. As I say, you know, you can't really make it out from there now, but yeah, one of the involved in some of, you know, British criminal history's more high-profile cases. But there you go. That's it for that. Thank you so much. But just look at that view. So peaceful. Hello, and now at the talky bit at the end. I hope you enjoyed that video. I found it a really interesting place, particularly, as I said, throughout the links to George Washington, but also the grave of Francis Camps. Now, if your immediate question on getting to this part of the video is, why are you wearing a baseball hat indoors? Well, I might fancy a game of indoor baseball. Silly question, really. That was a really lovely, it was only going to be a flying visit. It's not a very big church, as you could see, sort of going around the outer grounds and also the interior. But yeah, we met the lovely Jill. She sat and chatted with us for about 20 minutes. And then Julie, the pastor in charge, came out and gave us some more information. Yes, I got the wrong church, but the right church, but still the wrong church for what I actually went to go and see. So anyway, that's another video to make, isn't it? Also, another couple of characters I met. The reason it turned into a much longer day was when I was initially leaving to go and visit my wife. Like I said, her great-grandparents are buried in the churchyard there, and she went to go and visit their grave. As I was in it, but the graveyard is across the road from the church, the other graveyard. As I sort of like walked out, Julie was just leaving, and she was with Charlie Potter, the groundsman, who I mentioned in the previous section when talking about Francis Camps's grave. And he was a wonderful, friendly bloke. He'd seen me filming inside and started telling me all sorts of history about the church. And it turns out his dad, Stephen Potter, is very much a local historian who published this book all about Purleigh Church. I don't know if I'm using the front-facing camera, if that's all backwards, but it says Purleigh's Church Explained, and it's a really nice, nicely produced pamphlet stroke book. But Charlie arranged for us to go 5 minutes away to meet his dad, and to pick up a copy of this, which I was incredibly grateful for. But we spent another 25 minutes on the doorstep. It's a lovely little farmhouse. just talking about sort of like local history. And I suspect that what the guy doesn't know about local history is, you know, you could probably write on a grain of rice. Wonderful, friendly bloke. Both Charlie and Stephen, thank you very much. But also, Charlie himself, as we got nattering, and I mentioned I was doing this for YouTube, was interested in like the channel. He's like, well, what's it about? And I told him that, you know, the origins of it was ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and we seem to be of a similar vintage, because we then chatted for quite some time about that. And I can't remember if he said he thought the Commodore 64 was better than the Spectrum, or he thought the ZX Spectrum was better than the Commodore 64, which we all know is true. Just joking. And his favourite game was Treasure Island Dizzy. I got that much out of him. We talked about all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it was lovely to go in there and, you know, see some of the history. I hope you have seen a kind of improvement in these sort of outdoor walkie-talkie, sort of bloggy type things. I enjoy doing them. Now, for those of you who they don't get many views, I don't do them for the views or for subscribers, or, you know, I do them because I enjoy them. I really like sort of history, local history. I love old churches, and, you know, they all serve a common purpose, but they've all got a singular individual story to tell. You know, no two of these old ones are exactly the same. And by God, the stories they could tell, and I hope I am getting on the way to being able to demonstrate that a bit more. I did do a little bit more research on this one, just turning up blind, instead of just turning up blind and just going, I don't know about this. And you know, don't get me wrong, that I will eventually get back to doing some gaming videos, etc. But as the weather gets better, you know, I don't want to be stuck indoors all the time. There are so many interesting places to see, and importantly, so many interesting places to share. And that's really why I'm doing it. And is also to reinvigorate me, my interest in YouTube, in getting back into it. I don't want to be monetized. I'm not chasing watch hours and stuff. I just want to get back into the habit of, I've said this several times, whenever I've had these sort of like long breaks. Oh yeah, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be doing this, and then, you know, the recent one was life very much got in the way. Circumstances I won't go into. But now those days are past. I mean it this time. Well, hopefully, you know, like I say, fate has a habit recently of sort of like biting me on the arse, as it does everyone. You know, I'm not complaining or anything. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. I always welcome feedback. I've had some good feedback on the recent videos, etc. And it's always welcome. I do hope you like the video. I do hope you take the time to comment, join in the discussion, correct me on anything that I've said that may be wrong. If you are familiar with the area of Purleigh near Maldon in Essex, then please pop into this place and give it, and particularly if you're a history buff as well, you know, into your US history, etc. And your true crime. I noticed Francis Camps's grave. Was it the first time we visited, or the last time we visited? The last time we visited. And being a kind of reader of true crime stuff, and, you know, watched quite a few YouTube videos about, you know, cases of old. That's how I knew the name. I didn't know he was there. It was just literally where my wife's great-grandparents' graves are. It's just a matter of, you know, about 15 yards away, and I was just having a bimble round, and sort of you had, as you could see from the video, you had to kind of squint because the lettering's kind of faded and stuff. But once I made it out, I was like, oh, that's actually quite interesting. Well, I found it interesting. I hope you have. Oh, yeah. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. There's only a few hours left of it. It's Monday tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye. Bye.